Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. I see what my next challenge is. No, in getting rid of unwanted habits, unwanted patterns of behavior, unwanted ways of thinking, or just we have certain reactions that we're kind of like programmed. When this happens, we always react like that. And we can get away with it for a while. But on the spiritual path, all of those non-Krishna conscious reactive behaviors, they have to go. And you have to catch them and start cutting them back. And personally, I've had a lot of success getting rid of a lot of stuff. But I know there's always more to go. So I never know what the next challenge is until it's like right there in my face. And I go, oh, that's what the next one is. So it's become clear what this next reaction pattern is that has to go. And it was in my face twice today. I had 2 encounters with devotees that like to say that they push your buttons. That's what when they say that, that's what they push your button mean. They get you to react without thinking, just like a knee-jerk reaction. And you don't want that. In Krishna consciousness, you don't want to do that. You don't want to just react. You don't want to. You want to be conscious of Krishna in all your activities. And because for every action, there's a reaction. So if you just react, that sets off like a chain of more. And it just goes on and on and on. Like when you hold a mirror up to another mirror and you can look and it just goes. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. So it happened twice today. And I was thinking, why, why did that happen? 2 different times. And then I realized, it's just showing me, I was seeing in others what I need to take care of in myself. And that's why it was so upsetting. I didn't like what I saw. And I feel bad for those devotees because they got to deal with it. It's their stuff. But it showed me, it was like holding the mirror up. I was like, oh, wow. That's exactly what I do in certain situations, what they did to me. Krishna. Hare Krishna. So there it is. That pattern of, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. I see it all the time now. Devotee is like, or anybody really, is all upset about something that somebody else did, but they're doing the same exact thing. They don't see it. Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. And it was so obvious the second time it happened that this was a setup by Krishna. It was so obvious because there was going to be a Sankirtan event. And I got the message that it might get canceled because of rain and that I should check back. If it's canceled because of rain, it'll be tomorrow. Tomorrow's supposed to be a sunny day. But I didn't check, and I thought about checking back, messaging back. Is everybody going to be there or what? And I didn't. And I thought about it 2 or 3 times. You should check before you go. You should check before you go. They might not be there. And I ignored it. It was a setup by Krishna so that I would go there. And sure enough, it was canceled. So I was there at the spot, and I had a round or two, to do anyway. So I just chanted. And then while I was sitting there, another devotee came that didn't know about the cancellation. And so I explained to them that I had gotten that message that if nobody shows, that it's tomorrow. And I was sitting in the car. Now, I'm almost 74, okay? I mean, I'm an old woman. I mean, I'm old, everything's wrinkly. And, it's like... And this devotee is old. We're the same age. And this person's been practicing for at least as long as I have. And they reached in the car and they wanted to, I'm like, no, 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 no. We don't go there. And so I'm like, this was a setup by Krishna to, hey, Deepan, Hare Krishna. This was a setup to really confirm that I'm on the right track with being able to not fall into that trap of trying to get some sense gratification. Falling into that trap. I don't fall into that trap anymore. And this was a confirmation. And it was a setup. And then I could understand, the times that I've kind of lusted over someone, and made them awkward and uncomfortable. And I could understand. So now I have to see how to deal with this, because this isn't the first time this has happened. And this is like about the 3rd time in the last 2 months, which is inconceivable to me. Like I say, I'm an old woman, everything, saggy. But, so I have to see how to deal with this compassionately. My first instinct is, to get a shotgun and just blow their brains out. But that's not, that's the reactionary response. What's the Krishna conscious response? To try to help somebody who's confused like this without getting caught up in all their shit. How do you do that? How do you help somebody like that? So that's, since it's happened, this is the 3rd time in the last month or so, different people. So I have to see, and Krishna to give me some guidance on this. And not just the reactionary thing where, smack them in the head with a sledgehammer or something. Or they probably would be good for them. But Hare Krishna. The other, that was one incidence of reactionary behavior, how to deal with an awkward situation without just being reactionary. Defensive, reactionary. How to deal with the situation Krishna consciously. I did a little bit better this time than I did the other 2 times. I was pretty brutal the other 2 times. I mean, which is not really, that's my problem. That's my problem. They have their problem, but that kind of rage is my problem, and it's unnecessary. I don't have to rage. I just have to see how to deal with these. It's not the last time it's going to happen. I'll be 92 and somebody's gonna come, ooh, it's gonna happen. So I have to see how to, in a Krishna conscious way, to deal with this very disturbing kind of thing that goes on. Because you expect more from devotees, especially if they've been practicing a long time. You expect to be able to take shelter of them and not that they want to, exploit you somehow. So it's very disturbing. Partly because you expect more from an older devotee. You expect more. But you know what they say about expectations? It's a setup for disaster. So I just have to see, they don't have a high enough taste in Krishna consciousness to not be dragged around by this kind of material desire. So, to try to see how to help without getting pulled into the stinky cesspool. Hare Krishna. The other occurrence was, and this is also something that I have to deal with myself personally, was the devotee was incredibly abrasive and abusive and harsh over nothing. Over nothing. They were 4-letter words, the whole thing. I contacted them about something I thought they would be interested in, and that's what I got. That I was stupid, and this has happened a couple times before too, with different devotees. And you would expect more from devotees. You would expect more. So the karmis, or the non-devotee, they don't do it so much because they have a lot at stake. Their job, their reputation. But sometimes devotees, they're kind of out there, and they just say anything, do anything. They don't, it just it makes it very interesting dealing with devotees. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. So I'm guilty of that also, being harsh sometimes. Someone kind of rubs me the wrong way. I can really snap, So, twice today, different things happen that I see they're patterned behavior, and they're really not helpful for Krishna consciousness. They're not helpful. So I'll be working on that. But more than just kind of cleaning my own act up, I want to be able to help these people when that ugliness comes out of them. That ugly thing comes out. I want to be able to help without, smacking them over the head with a sledgehammer and throwing them off a cliff and then having an elephant step on them or something. Because they acted that way toward me. Who do they think they are acting that way toward me? Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. So that was an interesting day. Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare. Definitely have my work cut out for me, because devotees can be very, very offensive. They can be so offensive to each other. It's just incredible. Krishna. I heard it explained that the society of devotees, part of the way the purification works is like if you have a semi-precious stone, you know, put them all in a bag, and then jumble them all up, and they take the rough edges off of each other, and then when you open up the bag, they're all shining, and you can see their beauty, their gem-like beauty, because all the rough edges came off. You put them in a bag and shake them up. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. I am sure it works like that. Absolutely sure. So devotee association, it's not just, oh, it's so nice. We had a wonderful program the other night, and we ate pakoras and tomato chutney, and somebody made sweet rice. There's that too. But then there's this other thing. This in the bag, jumble it up and get the rough edges off. That's also the great value of devotee association. It can be painful, it can be embarrassing, and it's not particularly pleasant. Hare Krishna, but it's very valuable. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Why? Because everyone's serving Krishna. Everyone's serving Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Even the grouchy, mean, abusive, abrasive, whatever, serving Krishna. And the lusty, serving Krishna. More or less. Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. We wouldn't have access to Nishingadev if Hiranyakashipu hadn't offended his devotee son so severely. We wouldn't have access to that incarnation. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Rama, Hare Hare. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is absolute. He's non-different from his name, from his form, from his pastimes, and from his paraphernalia. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. It's non-different from his pastimes. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Hare Hare, Hare Rama, I think I want to read a little more of his pastimes. This is a summary study of the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, which deals exclusively with the intimate, personal, loving pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead as recorded during his appearance 5,000 years ago. What do I have on here? Some dirt or something. Whatever. It was out in the garden. Dirt. Okay. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. So, the whole spiritual world, Goloka Vrindavan, is in this mantra. Jai Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari Gopi Chana Balaba Giridhari Gopi Chana Balaba Giridhari Visharanandana Vishanarandana Visharanandana Vishanarandana Yamuna Tira Brahmachari Yamuna Tira Brahmachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Paramajakacharya Asta Sarasata Shishiman, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Vanchikapata Rubyascha Kripasindabhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha. Some of the gopis were, this is chapter 29, the Rasa Dance introduction. And Prabhupada is helping us to understand the non-material, it's not a material pastime like we see in this world. It's in a whole nother universe, it's a spiritual planet, a whole nother energy field. Some of the gopis were factually detained from going to Krishna by their husbands and were locked up by force within their rooms. Being unable to go to Krishna, they began to meditate upon his transcendental form by closing their eyes. They already had the form of Krishna within their minds. They proved to be the greatest yogis, as is stated in Bhagavad Gita. A person who constantly thinking of Krishna within his heart with faith and love is considered to be the topmost of all yogis. Actually, a yogi concentrates his mind on the form of Lord Vishnu. That is real yoga. Krishna is the original form of all Vishnu tattvas. The gopis could not go to Krishna personally, so they began to meditate on him as perfect yogis. In the conditioned stage of the living entities, there are two kinds of results of fruitive activities. The conditioned living entity who is constantly engaged in sinful activities has suffering as his result, and he who is engaged in pious activities has material enjoyment as a result. In either case, material suffering or material enjoyment, the enjoyer or sufferer is conditioned by material nature. The gopi associates of Krishna who assemble in the place where Krishna is appearing are from different groups. Most of the gopis are eternal companions of Krishna, as stated in the Brahma Samhita. Ananda Chinmaya Rasa Pratibhavitabi. In the spiritual world, the associates of Krishna especially the gopis, are the manifestation of the pleasure potency of Lord Krishna. They are expansions of Srimati Radharani. But when Krishna exhibits his transcendental pastimes within the material world in some of the universes, not only the eternal associates of Krishna come, but also those who are being promoted to that status from this material world. The gopis who joined Krishna's pastimes within this material world were coming from the status of ordinary human beings. If they had been bound by fruitive action, they were fully freed from the reaction of karma by constant meditation on Krishna. Their severe, painful yearnings caused by their not being able to see Krishna freed them from all sinful reactions, and their ecstasy of transcendental love for Krishna in his absence was transcendental to all their reactions of material pious activities. The conditioned soul is subjected to birth and death, either by pious or sinful activities. But the gopis, who began to meditate on Krishna, transcended both positions and became purified and thus elevated to the status of the gopis already expanded by his pleasure potency. All the gopis who concentrated their minds on Krishna in the spirit of paramour love became fully uncontaminated from all the fruitive reactions of material nature. And some of them immediately gave up their material bodies, developed under the three modes of material nature. Maharaj Parikshit heard Sukadeva Goswami explain the situation of the gopis who assembled with Krishna in the Rasa Dance. When he heard that some of the gopis, simply by concentrating on Krishna as the paramour, became freed from all contamination of material birth and death, he said, "The gopis did not know that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They accepted him as a beautiful boy and considered him to be their paramour. So, how was it possible for them to get freed from the material conditions just by thinking of a paramour?" One should consider here that Krishna and ordinary living beings are qualitatively one. The ordinary living being part and parcel of Krishna, are also Brahman, but Krishna is the supreme Parabrahman. The question is, if it is possible for the devotee to get freed from the material world, contaminated stage, simply by thinking of Krishna, then why not others who are also thinking of someone? If one is thinking of a husband or son, or if anyone at all is thinking of another living entity, since all living entities are also Brahman, then why are they not all freed from the contaminated stage of material nature? This is a very intelligent question, because the atheists are always imitating Krishna. In these days of Kali Yuga, there are many rascals who think themselves to be as great as Krishna and who cheat people into believing that thinking of them is as good as thinking of Lord Krishna. Parikshit Maharaj, apprehending the dangerous condition of blind followers, of demoniac imitators, therefore asked this question, and fortunately it is recorded in the Srimad Bhagavatam to warn innocent people that thinking of an ordinary man and thinking of Krishna are not the same. Actually, even thinking of the demigods cannot compare with thinking of Krishna. It is also warned in Vaishnava Tantra that one who puts Vishnu, Narayan, or Krishna on the same level of the demigods is called Pashanda, or a rascal. On hearing this question of Maharaj Parikshit, Sukadeva Goswami replied, "My dear king, your answer is already answered even before this incident." Because Parikshit Maharaj wanted to clear up the situation, his spiritual master answered him very intelligent. quote, "Why are you again asking the same subject which has already been explained to you? Why are you so forgetful?" End quote. A spiritual master is always in the superior position, so he has the right to chastise his disciple in this way. Sukadeva Goswami knew that Maharaj Parikshit asked the question not for his own understanding, but as a warning for future innocent people who might think others to be equal to Krishna. Sukadeva Goswami then reminded Parikshit Maharaj about the salvation of Shishupal. Shishupal was always envious of Krishna, and because of his envy, Krishna killed him. Since Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Shishupal gained salvation simply by seeing him. If an envious person can get salvation simply by concentrating his mind on Krishna, then what to speak of the gopis who are so dear to Krishna and always thinking of him in love? There must be some difference between the enemies and the friends. If Krishna's enemies could get freed from material contamination and become one with the Supreme, then certainly his dear devotees like the gopis are free and with him. Besides that, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is called Rishikesh. Sukadeva Goswami also said that Krishna is Rishikesh, the super soul, whereas an ordinary man is a conditioned soul covered by material body. Krishna's body are the same because he is Rishikesh. Any person making a distinction between Krishna and Krishna's body is fool number one. Krishna is Rishikesh and Adhokshaja. These two particular words have been used by Parikshit Maharaj in this instance. Rishikesh is the Supersoul, and Adhokshaja is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, transcendental to the material nature. Just to show favor to the ordinary living entities, out of his causeless mercy, he appears as he is. Unfortunately, foolish persons mistake him to be another ordinary person, and so they become eligible to go to hell. Sukadeva Goswami reconfirmed that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, imperishable, immeasurable, and free from all material contamination. Sukadeva Goswami continued to inform Maharaj Parikshit that Krishna is not an ordinary person. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, full of all spiritual qualities. He appears in this material world out of his causeless mercy, and wherever he appears as he is, without change. This is also confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita. There, the Lord says that he appears in his spiritual potency. He does not appear under the control of this material potency. The material potency is under his control. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is stated that the material potency is working under his superintendence. It is also confirmed in Brahma Samhita that the material potency known as Durga is acting just as a shadow which moves with the movement of the substance. The conclusion is that if one somehow or other becomes attached to Krishna or attracted to him, either because of his beauty, quality, opulence, fame, strength, renunciation, or knowledge, or even through lust, anger, or fear, or affection, or friendship, then one's salvation and freedom from material contamination is assured. In the Bhagavad Gita, 18th chapter, the Lord also states that one who is engaged in preaching Krishna consciousness is very dear to him. A preacher has to face many difficulties in his struggle to preach pure Krishna consciousness. Sometimes he has to suffer bodily injuries, and sometimes has to meet death also. All this is taken as a great austerity on behalf of Krishna. Krishna therefore has said that such a preacher is very, very dear to him. If Krishna's enemies can expect salvation simply by concentrating their minds on him, then what to speak of persons who are so dear to Krishna? The conclusion should be that the salvation of those who are engaged in preaching Krishna consciousness in the world is guaranteed in all circumstances. But such preachers never care for salvation, because factually, one who is engaged in Krishna consciousness, devotional service, has already achieved salvation. Sukadev Goswami therefore assured King Parikshit that he should always rest assured that one attracted by Krishna attains liberation from material bondage, because Krishna is the transcendental master of all mystic power. Hare Krishna, Krishna. This is, it's a fairly long chapter. I mean, not long, but so there's still more to go, and we'll do it next time, Krishna willing. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama,